Right. Okay. This is the so-called geological column, which supposedly shows evolution. It's a bit complicated to explain, but there's supposedly only certain types of fossils found in the certain types of rocks, and they supposedly date the rocks from the kinds of fossils. And the kind of rocks that you find dinosaurs in are the Mesozoic, so the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous. We all remember Jurassic Park. Okay, well, the Jurassic type of rock is the kind of rock you find dinosaur fossils in. And the dinosaurs supposedly died out before the mammals evolved. So you shouldn't find mammals and modern birds together with dinosaurs because they evolved later, supposedly, if we believe the geologic column. The geologic column actually can't be found anywhere apart from in the books. It doesn't actually exist. In fact, it was invented by, the geologic column was invented by, what was his name? Lyell, Charles Lyell, who was a lawyer, who was an amateur geologist, and he decided he hated God, and therefore he'd invent some reason to not believe in God. And the dates and everything that he came up with are still accepted today, although there's really no proof for them. Anyway, this was before Darwin. It was before Darwin even. It was well before that. Okay, carry on. So, modern species of mammals and birds only emerged. I like the way they say these emerged, just like it just happened, so it's amazing. It's full of expressions like that. Many millions of years after the dinosaurs died out, okay. However, there's an American guy who did research, and he went and looked at all the dinosaur strata, and he looked at what else is found together with dinosaurs. So in the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous, supposedly 250 to 65 million years old, what is actually found together with the dinosaurs, okay? So was it really like this, just dinosaurs and volcanoes, okay? So they found invertebrates, okay, they're supposedly older. So carry on this back. Insects, starfish, what's that one? Corals, worms, sponges, and these are like mussels. So they find those sort of things, okay? Next. Vertebrates, all kinds of fish. The top left is a lamprey, which is it's a very strange kind of fish. The mouth is very different from other kinds. Then there's the cartilaginous fish, which don't have bones, they're just cartilage, that's like the sharks, and the modern fish with bones, like a salmon. Okay, they find those things. They find amphibians, like salamanders and frogs and that sort of thing. Okay. Vertebrates, reptiles like snakes and lizards, turtles, okay? And even modern birds, an owl, penguin, parrots, and a duck. Now, the duck is amazing because they have actually found ducks with dinosaurs, but ducks are only supposed to have evolved very recently, apparently, just a few, even if it's a couple of 100,000 years ago or something. It's only very, very recently. And so, you know what they say, if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, if it walks like a duck, it's probably a duck. But what the evolutionists say, well, it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it walks like a duck, but it can't be a duck. No, because they didn't live at the same time. Okay. And even certain mammals, in fact, they found squirrels, bush babies, I think, shrew, hedgehog, and even primates. Not the sort of developed primates, but some of the so-called primitive primates they found together with dinosaurs. And this is the guy, Carl Werner. So paleontologists have found 432 mammal species in the dinosaur layers, almost as many as the dinosaur species, which should be impossible. Okay. And plants, various different kinds of plants, modern plants, ferns, trees, flowering plants. Okay. And even, what about humans? The supposed human skeleton's been found in Utah in the Cretaceous layers, which are the dinosaur layers. Hotly denied. It can't be possible. Must have fallen into a crevasse and just can't be real. Okay. Humans and footprints. There's dinosaur footprints and human footprints. This is also, again, hotly disputed, and there's all kinds of arguments about it. There's various places in Texas, such as the Paluxy River, which has dinosaur footprints and human footprints together in the same rock, and it looks like they're possibly escaping the flood, who knows, and then a layer of sand came across. There's lots of tests been done. They've even looked where the rock strata where the footprints are going, and there's been a layer of rock strata, and they've cut the rock away, and they've found that it continues, so they can't be fakes. Everybody's saying, oh, they're carvings, they're fake, they can't be real, but apparently they are. Okay, and just here's an interesting one: a fossil human hammer, a fossil human finger, and a metal hammer, a human artifact, also in the dinosaur layers. Okay. And this is just an interesting point, a human footprint which stood on a trilobite, and trilobites supposedly died out 500 million years ago in the Cambrian, very, very early. And yet also there's evidence of humans. So basically, the rock layers were laid down in the flood. They're not millions of years old. Okay. Okay, that was just an aside. Right. So, we were going to talk about dinosaurs in the Bible. Done some artwork and some history and some, historical records. So get back to the Bible. And what does Mr. T-Rex think about this? Okay, go on. When did dinosaurs live then? We'll get back to that. Well, the Bible says, of course, if the Bible is correct, and God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, 6,000 years ago, approximately, then there's nothing in what I've actually shown you that disagrees with that or that conflicts with that in any way. Okay? Dinosaurs are animals, basically. They're not spooky or they're not weird or anything. They're animals. They're big reptiles, but they are basic animals which are probably mostly extinct now. And so it says in the Bible that God created the sea creatures and the flying beasts on the fifth day, doesn't it? That's what God said. So along with the fishes and the birds, probably created the plesiosaur and the pteranodon on the fifth day at the same time as the rest of the aquatic and flying beasts. Okay. Genesis 1:21, it mentions it says God created great whales, I think, or great sea creatures in the King James. The Hebrew is hataninim hagadolim, which just means big reptiles. Basically, tanin is one of the words for reptile. So God created the great sea creatures, basically, which could have included the things that we've looked at. And yeah, I put Exodus 7, 10, and 15. I don't know. You remember the incident when Moses goes to confront Pharaoh, and he has a stick, and he throws it down, and it turns into a snake, and then he grabs it, and he picks it up. Well, for the sake of non-repetition, the Bible actually uses two different words for snake, and one of them is tanin. The other one is a normal word, which is the same as the one that's a snake in Genesis, which I think is nachash, I'm not quite sure. But one of the words, so a serpent, basically. So these are great serpents, great reptiles, these things. Okay. And dry land creatures and man on the sixth day. So the land-dwelling mammals, as well as land-dwelling dinosaurs and man, would have been created on the sixth day of creation. Were the dinosaurs in Noah's Ark? Okay. Well, the traditional pictures of Noah's Ark that we tend to show the children is a little houseboat with giraffes sticking out the top, isn't it? I mean, and of course, if you have that picture, it sounds completely ridiculous, sort of, how could there possibly have been dinosaurs on Noah's Ark? But if you look at the statistics and look at the data that's actually given in the book of Genesis and measure the size of the ark, then it was massive. It was absolutely huge. So the next slide gives perhaps more of a... No, sorry. This is just a funny one I put on. It mentions all the living creatures, all the land-dwelling creatures went into the ark, but maybe the Tyrannosaurus missed the boat. Okay, that's the only one. This is the joke. Did you even look at the date on the tickets? However, look at the picture, the next one. Now, this is more like what the size of the ark was like compared with the size of the animals. It was 450 feet long, 45 feet high, 75 feet wide, and it had 3 decks. And that just shows the scale compared with even the size of rather large sauropod dinosaurs. The thing is, Noah wasn't stupid, was he? I mean, he was 500 years old when he started building the ark, and he was, God gave him instructions what to do. And he probably didn't take big, massive grandpa and grandma dinosaurs with him on the ark. He probably took little ones, little young ones, so that they'd be able to breed afterwards. And the thing about reptiles, apparently, that most reptiles never stop growing. Okay, mammals and birds and other kind of creatures, they're born or they're hatched, and then they grow to adulthood, and then they stay pretty well the same size. But reptiles are hatched from eggs, generally, and then they just keep growing, and however long they live, they just get bigger and bigger. And if we think that human beings lived to between 900 and 1,000 years before the flood, so if you had a reptile that lived that long, then how big would it have been? Which is probably why you have enormous, absolutely huge sauropod dinosaurs, which are found in rock layers, which were laid down during the flood. So probably the ones that went on the ark may have been babies, and they could have been quite small. Possibly. It's certainly a possible theory which doesn't conflict with science. Okay. References in the Bible, it mentions fiery serpents, fiery flying dragons, various points in the Bible. But the most important references, okay? So we get to what the Bible really says about dinosaurs. There are two animals mentioned in the book of Job. Now, the book of Job is possibly the oldest book in the Bible. It's thought to have been written about Abraham's time, around about 2000 BC, so it's very old. And there's a section at the end where God confronts Job, and he says, basically, where were you when I created the world? Who are you to answer back to me? Where were you when I did this, that, and the other, and laid the foundations of the earth? And then he says, consider the winds and consider the storms. And then towards the end of this, he says, consider these two animals which I created, and just look how magnificent they are. And there's two of them. There's behemoth and leviathan are the Hebrew words. And there's descriptions in there of what they look like. And the modern authors try to say, well, it may have been a hippopotamus, or it may have been an elephant, sort of. But there's part of the description, next bit. It says about this behemoth, what strength he has in his loins and what power in the muscles of his belly. Okay, hippopotamus and elephant, they've got big bellies. But he sways his tail like a cedar tree. Well, yeah, okay. I mean, that's the hippopotamus and the elephant. It couldn't exactly say that it sways his tail like a cedar tree. It doesn't exactly fit. He ranks among the first of the works of God. If you consider a sauropod dinosaur, it really does fit the description quite well. It's very powerful, very, very, very strong, and it does certainly have a tail like a cedar tree. There's a couple of pictures here which show the sauropod like rearing up on its hind legs, which there was arguments about this among scientists of whether it could do this. But they've sort of calculated, the musculature and the way the bones are structured, and the fact that it could balance with its tail, that it's quite possible. If any of you have seen Jurassic Park, when they first come across a dinosaur, you can see a sauropod going up on its hind legs and reaching up into the tree. Well, maybe he was right. Okay. And in fact, can a sauropod really rear up on its hind legs? Remember the artwork that I showed you from Acambur or from Mexico, these dinosaur figurines? Well, there's one that looks like this. So maybe they really saw one doing it. Okay. Next one. Leviathan is the other one in the book of Job. Job 41. Next. Okay, this is the description of Leviathan, which is interesting. Okay, again, the theory is that it's a crocodile. His snorting throws out flashes of light. His eyes are like the rays of dawn. Firebrands stream from his mouth. Sparks of fire shoot out. Smoke pours out from his nostrils as from a boiling pot over a fire of reeds. His breath sets coals ablaze, and flames dart from his mouth. It seems like the author here is making absolutely sure that we know that this is a fire-breathing dragon. Okay, so it's just what it sounds like. And this is when the mockery turns, oh, yeah, fire-breathing dragon. Oh, yeah, right, the Bible's, that's what the Bible says. Okay. It's not a crocodile anyway, okay? It's not a crocodile. There is a dragon called the Parasaurolophus, which has a very strange structure in its head, which is actually postulated that it may possibly be able to breathe fire. There are legends, aren't there? I mean, from all over, fire-breathing dragons. And if you think about it, then it's not actually scientifically impossible. If these things ate mainly grass or vegetation, then, and if you just think of the cow, okay, the cow eats grass, and then, you know, it accumulates all the grass in its stomach, and it ferments, and it starts, you know, boiling away and doing all kinds of things, and it actually produces methane. If a cow belches, apparently if you hold a match there, then you're likely to get quite a shock. It actually does breathe fire because it produces methane, and then it belches the methane. Methane is highly inflammable. So if this creature produced methane in its stomach, and then it had some sort of mechanism which was able to produce a spark, then possibly it could breathe fire. It's certainly not impossible. It's not impossible at all. Okay, right.